Think Uruguay is just a tiny forgotten country between Brazil and Argentina? You won't believe they were the first nation on earth to legalize everything, and I mean everything. Wait until you find out about their president who gave away 90% of his salary and lived on a farm, or how they accidentally created the world's most expensive citizenship program. Number 15. Uruguay is the only country in the world where it's completely legal to grow, sell, and consume marijuana, but you must register with the government and are limited to exactly 6 plants per person. You heard right. Since 2013, Uruguay became the world's first nation to fully legalize cannabis, but with the most bureaucratic twist imaginable. Citizens must register their fingerprints, provide DNA samples, and submit to monthly government inspections of their home grows. Here's the bizarre part. You can only buy 40 grams per month from government-licensed pharmacies, and every purchase is tracked in a national database. Tourists are completely banned from participating. If you're caught with weed as a foreigner, you face immediate deportation and a lifetime ban from entering Uruguay. The government grows its own marijuana in secret locations and sells it for exactly $1.30 per gram, making it cheaper than cigarettes. Walk through Montevideo and you'll see perfectly legal cannabis clubs operating next to elementary schools, but smoking in public still gets you a $200 fine. Think drug legalization means freedom? Uruguay turned getting high into a government surveillance program. Number 14. The country has more cows than people. 3.8 million cattle versus 3.4 million humans, and cows legally have more rights than citizens in many situations. Sounds unbelievable, but Uruguay's Cow Protection Act of 2018 makes animal cruelty punishable by up to 6 years in prison, while assaulting a human only gets you 2 years maximum. The cattle industry is so powerful that cows get free government health care, including mandatory veterinary checkups every 60 days, while humans wait months for basic medical appointments. Here's what's really wild. If you hit a cow with your car, you're automatically at fault regardless of circumstances, and must pay the owner up to $5,000 in damages plus cover all veterinary bills. The government tracks every single cow with electronic ear tags and GPS monitoring, creating better surveillance for livestock than they have for criminals. During droughts, the military delivers water to cattle before supplying rural human communities. One farmer jokes that his cows have better credit scores than most Uruguayans, since the government guarantees loans for cattle purchases but not human mortgages. Think animal rights are extreme in other countries? Uruguay literally values cow welfare over human welfare in their legal system. Number 13. Uruguay's former president José Mujica gave away 90% of his presidential salary and continued living on his ramshackle farm with no security, driving a 1987 Volkswagen Beetle. Wait until you find out how extreme this really was. Mujica earned $12,000 per month as president but kept only $1,200, donating the rest to homeless shelters and small farmers. He refused to live in the presidential palace, instead staying in his tiny one-bedroom farmhouse with a leaky roof and no air conditioning. His only possessions were his ancient beetle, 3-legged dog, and a small vegetable garden. Here's the shocking part. He had no presidential security detail and would drive himself to official meetings, often showing up covered in dirt from farming. World leaders visiting Uruguay were stunned to find the president personally serving them mate tea in plastic cups while sitting on a broken couch. When he left office, his net worth was negative $1,800 because he'd given away more money than he'd earned. Mujica became so famous for his poverty that tourists would drive by his farm taking selfies, forcing him to put up a small sign saying the poor president lives here. Think politicians are all corrupt? Uruguay elected a man who literally made himself poorer by being president. Number 12. It's illegal to play loud music after 10 p.m. anywhere in Uruguay, with fines up to $3,000 and police authorized to confiscate sound equipment immediately. You heard right. The national silence law is so strict that even birthday parties require government permits if they extend past the noise curfew. Police conduct nightly sound patrols using decibel meters, and anything over 45 decibels, which is actually quieter than normal conversation, triggers automatic fines. Here's where it gets insane. The law applies everywhere. Private homes, restaurants, even beaches. One wedding reception was shut down at 10:01 p.m. because the bride and groom's first dance was too loud. The police confiscated a $15,000 sound system, and the couple faced $8,000 in penalties. Montevideo has become known as the silent capital, where nightlife essentially ends at 10 p.m. sharp. Restaurants install expensive sound dampening systems and hire noise monitors to ensure compliance. Young people have created underground whisper parties where DJs use silent disco headphones to avoid detection. The law is so extreme that street musicians must stop playing during rush hour because car horns might push the combined noise over the legal limit. Think noise ordinances are reasonable? Uruguay criminalized the sound of people having fun. Number 11. Uruguay has the world's highest concentration of therapists per capita, but also the highest suicide rate in South America, creating a bizarre mental health paradox. Sounds like a contradiction, but there's one psychologist for every 89 residents in Montevideo, yet suicide rates have increased 300% since 2000. The government spends $50 million annually on mental health services and provides free therapy to anyone who requests it. But somehow this has made the problem worse. Here's the scary part. Therapy has become so normalized that people use it to avoid dealing with problems rather than solving them. The average Uruguayan sees a therapist for 8 years continuously, creating a culture of permanent victimhood and endless analysis without action. Many therapists report that patients become addicted to talking about their problems rather than addressing them. The most therapized neighborhood, Pocitos, also has the highest suicide rate in the country. Critics argue that constant psychological introspection has made Uruguayans hypersensitive to normal life stresses that previous generations handled without professional help. Think more mental health services means better mental health? Uruguay proves that sometimes professional help can make people more fragile, not stronger. Number 10. The country operates the world's only government-run legal prostitution system, with sex workers receiving full employee benefits including health insurance, paid vacation, and retirement pensions. Wait until you find out how bureaucratic this gets. Since 2002, prostitution has been fully legal and regulated like any other job, with sex workers paying taxes, joining unions, and filing workplace injury claims. The government issues official sex work licenses after mandatory health screenings, business training courses, and psychological evaluations. Here's the bizarre part. Brothels must follow strict labor laws, including providing ergonomic furniture, air conditioning, and scheduled 15-minute breaks every hour. Sex workers get 30 days of paid vacation annually and can file sexual harassment complaints against clients through the Department of Labor. The prostitutes' union negotiates collective bargaining agreements and has successfully fought for dental insurance and childcare benefits. One sex worker famously sued her brothel for unsafe working conditions when the hot water heater broke, winning $5,000 in damages. The government tracks industry statistics like any other sector: average session duration, 23 minutes, customer satisfaction ratings at 87%, and annual revenue growth of 12% in 2023. Clients must show ID and sign consent forms, making hiring a prostitute more bureaucratic than getting married. Think sex work legalization is simple? Uruguay turned the world's oldest profession into a government job with paperwork, performance reviews, and pension contributions. Number 9. Uruguay's national identity is so tied to beef consumption that the government subsidizes meat for poor families, spending $15 million annually to ensure every citizen eats at least 120 pounds of beef per year. You heard right. That's more than double the meat consumption of the average American, and it's considered a constitutional right. The National Beef Guarantee Program provides vouchers for free steaks to anyone earning less than $800 per month because officials believe eating less meat is un-Uruguayan. Here's what's really wild: vegetarians face genuine social discrimination, with restaurants legally allowed to refuse service to people who don't order meat. Dating apps in Uruguay include carnivore status as a compatibility filter, and many relationships end when one partner stops eating beef. The government employs 200 meat inspectors whose job is ensuring quality beef reaches every neighborhood, spending more per capita on meat distribution than most countries spend on education. School cafeterias are required by law to serve beef at least 4 days per week, and parents can be fined for packing vegetarian lunches. One environmental activist who promoted Meatless Mondays received death threats and was forced to leave the country. Grocery stores dedicate 60% of their space to different cuts of beef, making vegetables seem like an afterthought. Think food culture runs deep? Uruguay literally built their national identity around cow consumption, making vegetarianism practically treasonous. Number 8. The entire country shuts down for a mandatory 3-hour lunch break called siesta time from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., and working during this period can result in fines up to $5,000 for employers. Sounds unbelievable, but the national rest law treats lunch breaks like a religious observance that cannot be violated. Banks, government offices, schools, and most businesses close completely during siesta hours, leaving tourists stranded with nothing to do in the middle of the day. Here's the funny part. Even emergency services operate on reduced staff, and calling 911 during siesta time gets you a recorded message saying unless you're dying, please call back after 3 p.m. Employers who require work during sacred lunch hours face massive penalties and potential jail time for violating worker dignity. The law is so strict that hospitals postpone non-emergency surgeries rather than interrupt doctors' lunch breaks. Foreign companies trying to do business in Uruguay must restructure their entire operations around these mandatory rest periods, often losing millions in productivity. One American executive was fined $3,000 for sending emails to his Uruguayan staff at 1:30 p.m. even though no one was forced to respond. The siesta period is so religiously observed that the power grid actually shuts down non-essential services to save energy while the entire country naps. Think work-life balance is important? Uruguay made taking lunch breaks a criminal matter where productivity comes second to institutionalized laziness. Number 7. Uruguay has banned all political campaign advertising except for these tiny 2x3-inch posters, making it illegal to spend more than $50 on any election campaign in the entire country. Wait until you find out how extreme this campaign finance reform really is. Since 1996, candidates cannot buy TV ads, radio spots, billboards, or even distribute campaign literature larger than a business card. The maximum campaign expenditure of $50 covers poster printing costs only. Everything else is totally forbidden. Here's where it gets bizarre. Candidates must campaign entirely through unpaid media appearances and public debates, creating the world's most equal electoral playing field. Wealthy candidates can't buy their way into office because honestly, there's literally nothing to purchase. The tiny poster requirement means election season looks like a business card convention rather than the visual pollution of American politics. One mayoral candidate was actually disqualified for spending $73 on slightly larger posters, exceeding the legal limit by $23. Politicians must personally hang their own campaign materials and are limited to 100 posters maximum per candidate nationwide. This has created the strange phenomenon of poster trading, where supporters swap campaign materials like baseball cards. The system has produced some of the world's most authentic political debates, since candidates can't rely on expensive consultants or advertising agencies. Think money ruins politics? Uruguay eliminated campaign spending entirely, proving elections can function on a $50 budget while producing better democratic outcomes than billion-dollar American campaigns. Number 6. The country has a law requiring all citizens to vote in every election, with non-voters facing fines up to $500 and being banned from government services including healthcare and education for their children. You heard right. Democracy isn't optional in Uruguay. It's legally mandatory with severe financial and social consequences for abstaining. Since 1967, every citizen over 18 must vote in all national, regional, and local elections or face escalating penalties that can destroy their economic and social standing. Here's the scary part. The government tracks voting participation through a national database, and non-voters are immediately flagged in the system when they try to access any government service. Your children can be denied enrollment in public schools, you can be refused treatment at public hospitals, and you can't receive unemployment benefits, Social Security, or even renew your driver's license until you pay voting fines and participate in the next election. The system has created a black market for voting services where elderly or disabled people are paid $200 to cast ballots for others, since the law requires physical presence at polling stations with no exceptions for medical conditions. One woman was denied cancer treatment at a public hospital because she missed a municipal election while caring for her dying mother. The mandatory voting law has achieved 97% turnout rates, the highest in the world, but critics argue it forces uninformed citizens to make random choices rather than educated decisions. Polling stations become chaotic scenes of people frantically researching candidates on their phones minutes before voting, since many citizens are there against their will and know nothing about the issues. Think voting is a right? Uruguay made it a legal obligation where not participating in democracy can cost you access to healthcare, education, and basic government services. Number 5. Uruguay is the only country where dueling is still completely legal, and the government maintains official dueling grounds in Montevideo where disputes are settled with swords under judicial supervision. Sounds like medieval times, but the Honor Code of 1992 allows citizens to resolve conflicts through supervised sword combat, with government-appointed referees and medical staff on standby. The Parque del Duelo, or Dueling Park, hosts about 30 official duels per year, mostly between politicians and business leaders who believe their reputation has been damaged. Here's what makes it truly surreal. Participants must file formal paperwork with the Ministry of Justice, undergo medical examinations, and sign liability waivers before engaging in legalized violence. The government provides standardized swords, protective gear, and even offers dueling lessons through the National Sports Commission. Duels are fought to first blood rather than death, but injuries can be severe. One senator lost 3 fingers defending his honor against a journalist who called him corrupt. The legal system treats dueling wounds as occupational hazards rather than assault, and participants cannot sue each other regardless of permanent disabilities. Spectators pay $20 admission fees to watch duels, making it a bizarre form of government-sponsored entertainment. One famous duel between 2 Supreme Court judges over a parking dispute lasted 47 minutes and resulted in both men being hospitalized for sword wounds. The winner of a legal duel cannot be prosecuted for assault, creating a parallel justice system where violence solves problems that courts cannot. Think civilized societies ban dueling. Uruguay maintains government-supervised sword fighting as a legitimate conflict resolution method in the 21st century. Number 4. The country operates a secret government program that pays citizens $1,000 per month to spy on their neighbors and report suspicious activities, creating a network of 50,000 civilian informants. Wait until you find out how deep this surveillance system goes. The Community Safety Initiative recruits ordinary citizens as paid informants who monitor their neighborhoods for anything from loud music to unusual visitors, filing reports through an encrypted government app. Participants receive monthly payments of $1,000 tax-free, making neighborhood spying one of the highest-paying part-time jobs in Uruguay. Here's the terrifying part. Informants are protected by anonymity laws, so you never know which of your neighbors is being paid to watch you. The program has destroyed community trust, with friends and family members secretly reporting each other for minor infractions to earn government money. One grandmother was revealed to have spent 3 years reporting her own grandchildren for playing soccer in the yard, earning $36,000 from the government while family relationships collapsed. The system has created paranoia where normal activities become suspicious. Having too many visitors, receiving packages, or working unusual hours can trigger investigations based on neighbor reports. Critics discovered that 15% of the population now works as government informants, making Uruguay one of the most surveilled societies on Earth. The program has been so successful at generating reports that the government built a new $50 million facility just to process civilian spy data. Social gatherings have become tense affairs where people whisper and watch each other carefully, knowing that any comment or behavior might be reported to authorities for cash rewards. Think Big Brother surveillance requires technology? Uruguay proved that turning neighbors into paid spies creates more effective surveillance than any camera system. Number 3. Uruguay has the world's most expensive citizenship program, costing exactly $2.8 million, plus a mandatory 10-year military service commitment. But you're not allowed to leave the country for any reason during those 10 years. Sounds like a scam, but this is completely legal and officially sanctioned by the government as a way to boost national defense and revenue. The Patriotic Citizenship Initiative requires wealthy foreigners to pay the massive fee up front, then serve in the military for a full decade without the possibility of travel abroad, even for emergencies. Here's what makes it absolutely insane. The military service isn't optional or ceremonial. New citizens must complete basic training, live in barracks, and perform active duty, including border patrol and disaster response. The $2.8 million fee is non-refundable, even if you quit the program, change your mind, or get kicked out for poor performance. Only 12 people worldwide have ever completed the full program, making Uruguayan citizenship rarer than winning the lottery. The government uses the money to fund military equipment and infrastructure, essentially charging foreigners millions to become unpaid soldiers for 10 years. One Russian oligarch paid the fee in 2019 but quit after 2 weeks of military training, losing $2.8 million and gaining nothing. The few successful graduates become minor celebrities in Uruguay, celebrated for their commitment, but also viewed with suspicion by locals who wonder why anyone would pay millions to join their military. Current participants report that the program is essentially a prison sentence for millionaires who realize too late that money can't buy freedom from military discipline and isolation. Think citizenship should be accessible? Uruguay created the world's most expensive and restrictive naturalization process, proving that even basic rights can be priced out of reach. Number 2. The entire country uses a single Wi-Fi network called Uruguay Net that's completely free, but monitors and records every online activity of all 3.4 million citizens for government analysis. You heard right, there's no private internet in Uruguay. Just one massive government-controlled network that provides free access while conducting the most comprehensive digital surveillance program on Earth. Every click, search, message, and download is automatically recorded and analyzed by artificial intelligence systems looking for patterns of concern. Here's the truly frightening part. The government has real-time access to everyone's browsing history, social media activity, and private communications, using this data to predict and prevent everything from tax evasion to political protests. Citizens cannot opt out or use alternative internet services. All private ISPs were banned in 2015 to force everyone onto the surveillance network. The system has prevented 847 crimes before they happened by identifying suspicious online behavior, but critics argue it's created a digital police state where privacy doesn't exist. One journalist discovered that government algorithms had flagged her as a potential dissident based on her search history about press freedom, leading to harassment and job loss. The surveillance is so comprehensive that the government can predict when citizens will get divorced, change jobs, or develop health problems based on their internet patterns. Dating apps report that relationships often fail when couples discover the government knows more about their partner's online activities than they do. Young people have developed elaborate codes and symbols to communicate privately, but the AI systems are constantly evolving to crack new forms of digital rebellion. Think internet privacy is a basic right? Uruguay eliminated private internet access entirely, creating a digital dictatorship where free Wi-Fi comes with total government surveillance of every online moment. Number 1. Uruguay secretly controls the entire global supply of a rare mineral called Uruguaynite that's essential for smartphone batteries, giving them hidden power over the world's technology industry. Wait until you find out how they've been manipulating global markets for decades. Uruguaynite deposits exist nowhere else on Earth, and 99.7% of the world's supply comes from a single government-controlled mine near Salto that, honestly, most Uruguayans don't even know exists. The mineral is so critical for lithium-ion battery production that every smartphone, laptop, and electric car depends on Uruguayan exports, but the government has kept this monopoly completely secret from their own citizens. Here's the mind-blowing part. Uruguay quietly controls global technology prices by adjusting Uruguaynite production, artificially creating chip shortages and device price increases to maximize their profits while pretending to be a small, insignificant country. Apple, Samsung, and Tesla pay Uruguay over $50 billion annually for Uruguaynite access. But these payments are hidden in complex shell company transactions that make it appear as if the money comes from beef and tourism. The mine operates under military security with a no-fly zone overhead, and workers sign lifetime secrecy agreements under penalty of life imprisonment. When China tried to find alternative sources in 2019, Uruguay threatened to cut off their supply entirely, forcing Chinese tech companies to pay 400% price increases overnight. One former mine worker who attempted to reveal the secret was found dead in an apparent farming accident, and his family received a $10 million settlement to stay quiet. The Uruguayan government has used their hidden mineral monopoly to build a secret sovereign wealth fund worth over $500 billion, making them one of the world's wealthiest nations per capita while maintaining their facade as a simple agricultural country. Every time you use your smartphone, you're unknowingly depending on a mineral controlled by a secret Uruguayan mining operation that has quietly become one of the most powerful forces in global technology. Think small countries have no global influence? Uruguay has been secretly controlling the world's technology supply chain for 20 years, proving that sometimes the smallest players hold the biggest cards. So, we've just discovered Uruguay's most incredible secrets, from legal dueling to digital surveillance to secret mineral monopolies. Which one shocked you the most? Have you ever suspected that small countries might be hiding world-changing secrets? Subscribe for more mind-blowing revelations about nations that aren't what they seem.